order the meeting of the Clinton Board of Selectmen for October 6, 2021. First order of business is public comment. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the review of minutes for September 22nd, 2021. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the minutes of September 22nd.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Next up, I'm going to say this wrong no matter which way I go. Is it Farrer or Farrar? Farrer. Scott Farrer from National Grid would like to talk about a road opening request for Summit Street and Simon Court. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Farrer. I work at National Grid. I'm a community and customer manager. So I manage the relationship with our cities and towns, including the town of Clinton. So I deal with Mr. Ward and Mr. McGowan fairly routinely and other folks in town. So thank you for having me. About a year or so ago, we completed a project in town on Summit Street from Main Street up to about number 78, where we replaced gas main, low pressure gas main, and replaced it with a 60-pound gas main. We identified at that time a need to continue the project from Summit Street all the way up to Richmond Street and then also Simon Court. The problem was due to really a lack of communication, mostly with Mr. McGowan. The road is now paved, as I think a lot of you folks know. The two roads are paved, Summit and Simon Court. And so we're asking for your okay to continue our low pressure to 60-pound main project in that road with the stipulation that we'll do curb-to-curb paving on any places that we disturb the pavement. So that's the request.
Any questions from the board? Ed, that's your neighborhood.
How long is the project going to take?
Well, it's going to start soon because the winter moratorium will be here before us, so probably about 4 weeks. Does that sound reasonable to you, Chris? About 4 weeks?
It's going to start in 4 weeks, or it's going to
start relatively soon, and I would say it's about a 4-week project.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be a week or two more than that, I'm thinking, just because the tie-ins take time and then services always take a bit of time. So really what the hang-up on this is they supply a map to the town. We look at the map, and we also have to deal with them all the time, so we know where newer mains are and where we can pave. I looked at the map, and it's all color-coded. So yellow means plastic, so it's relatively new line. So to me it appeared that line, they stopped short of where that line was, so they made all of Summit Street yellow, so to speak. But that section was literally put in, I think, less than 20 years ago.
Right.
It's just that the fittings they used were made for low pressure and not for high pressure. So it ended up really, on paper, it looked like the road was ready to be paved, and these guys knew we were paving it, but it never kind of connected that they needed to replace this line. So I told them, in my opinion, I don't want to say that you can open up a brand new road without the Board of Selectmen's approval, and if the board says, yes, you can do it, you're absolutely going to need to go curb to curb. So what that means is they'll mill the entire top course of pavement off. So they'll put in their trench, which is 2 or 3 feet wide, do the road, they'll patch the trench back in with asphalt, then they'll mill the entire road down and put a new surface on the entire roadway. So it'll be a brand new road again when it's done. It's just unfortunate that it kind of went backwards.
And I appreciate that extra information. Yes, I mean, we just have a leak-prone pipe situation there in that section of Summit Street, and it would be good to get it upgraded to 60-pound and eliminate any leak risks with the pipe. So
I think it's generally the entire neighborhood up there. All of the piping is getting replaced. They've been up there for many years replacing all that low pressure line with a high pressure line, which is a good thing. But
is there any sort of a safety risk now? Because is the Summit Street is high pressure, but the Simon Court has fixtures that are low pressure?
it's not high pressure.
Oh, it's not,
Summer
okay,
Street
all right.
up to number 78 is 60 pounds now. Beyond number 78 Summit, all the way to Richmond Street is still low pressure.
They haven't switched over. They have both. They have high pressure and low pressure, and they're as they progress, they're taking the low pressure offline and putting it on the high pressure system. It's almost like two different feeds of gas, low and the high. And as they go, they dismantle the low pressure and turn it over to the high. But everything that's rated for low pressure is still low pressure right now.
I mean, no, I'm sorry.
So when you say curb to curb, we're saying from the top of Simon Court all the way down to Summit Street in its entirety?
And all of and from Summit, from Park to Richmond.
The width of the
All the way
entire
down.
street, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Jill?
Yeah, I just have one more. And you're absorbing the cost of this repaving?
I'm sorry?
National Grid is absorbing the cost to
Yes.
repave the road?
Yes. It was really our error, so yes, we're going to absorb the cost of repaving.
It doesn't, I mean, it just doesn't seem like we have much of a choice. I mean, this has to get done, right?
I mean, eventually it's got to get done.
So,
You know, could
yeah.
they leave a low pressure line in there for, it's just not good to have two systems in there.
It's
So, no.
unreliable. There's, pressure issues for folks currently right now, so we'd like to resolve that issue for the
Yeah.
residents.
Well, yeah, no. Full disclosure, I live on Simon Court, so
Okay.
I'm not happy
So,
about.
yeah, you're
That's
aware
why-
of it then.
Well, you said I was hoping you were going to say 4 days, not 4 weeks of.
No, it takes some time.
Because there's barely enough room to drive down that street anyway, never mind when there's a construction project going on, so. But it doesn't seem like we have a choice.
One thing they do is they pave as they go, so basically every day they repave the trenches. So they're going to the whole project will be in that. The Simon Court stretch would probably take them a day or two, and then the services might take them a few days. So
Okay.
the whole time on Simon Court might be 4 days
Okay.
in that range. So
That makes me feel better. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion with the understanding that the road is put back 100%. If that's the case, I'm agreed 100%.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made, second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thanks for the update.
Thank you for your time.
Next up, residents of Greeley Street have requested that sidewalks be installed on both sides as part of the recent road reconstruction project. Jillian O'Malley is here to talk about the issue. Please join us. Thanks for coming out.
Just would like to do a formal request for the right-hand side of Greeley Street going up to have sidewalks up to Lancaster.
Chris, do you want to come forward, or if you don't mind, just so we can hear from the DPW? Great. So let's just cover what's there now. I was up there the other day. It goes up, basically the gap is from the hospital toward the line, I guess.
yeah, from the hospital up to the Lancaster town line, we did not, on the right side of the road, we did not put them. On the other side of the road, there are concrete curbs all the way up, yes. And I'll explain what
Yeah, if you
our
don't mind.
decision-making process was. Generally speaking, I'd love to put sidewalks everywhere in town, on every single street on both sides of the road, the whole way, with granite curb would be absolutely the best thing we could do, for sure. We chose not to put sidewalk on that side of the road. One, because for the most part, there was no existing sidewalk. There were in front of a few of the properties, but it wasn't a continuous sidewalk that went up that whole side of the road. We look, when we're deciding what roads to put sidewalks on, we look at who the sidewalks are serving and how it's connecting to the rest of our sidewalk system or planned sidewalk systems. That side of the road really is serving the people that live on that side of the road. There's for the most part, and I'm not saying there's absolutely no one that would ever walk on that side of the road, but anyone walking from that side of the road towards Clinton would be people that live there. Anyone else who's walking from Lancaster, say, to Clinton would really be on the other side of the road. They'd be on the side where the cemetery is. People walking to the hospital from town would go up. They have a sidewalk all the way up and take a right turn onto Highland.
There's no sidewalk.
We look for connectivity. We look for how many people the sidewalk's serving. For instance, a good example, something very similar to this, is Water Street and Bolton Road have sidewalks the entire length, except Bolton Road does not have it on the right-hand side of the road, similar to what we did on Greeley Street. And the reason why is literally it would service the people that live on that side of the road, and basically only that. If you're on Highland Street and you go up or on Greeley Street, I keep saying Highland, you go up the road, the sidewalks that are beyond Highland Street, there is a neighborhood to your left that sidewalk services. You know, it certainly would be better for these people. I understand 100% if there was a sidewalk on that side of the road, but there's good sight distances. You can cross the street, there's a sidewalk across the street, and they can, walk down the road. I mean, like I had said, I would love to do sidewalks on every street, and just for you guys to get a feel for it, I don't think any of you were on the board when we didn't have money to pave. Now, I don't think one of you were on the board, but we have years where we literally couldn't pave. We had years where we had to decide between, doing a design on Water Street so we could get the free federal money or pave. And that's why that project took so long. It took 7-8 years to design that project because it was really difficult to decide when to allocate money to do that. We're not in that situation right now. We've done a tremendous amount of work, and it's all money that's one-time money. So I keep saying Highland for some reason, but Berlin Street, Greeley Street, High Street, all these roads, right now we're getting ready to pave between now and next spring 7 roads, which back 5 years ago, that's 7 years to do 7 roads. We're doing 7 roads this year. I look at sidewalks and I think to myself, Main Street's 1.5 miles from the town line to the middle school. Church Street, the rest of Church Street, Union Street, Chestnut Street, Mechanic Street. We have requests all the time for roads. People want sidewalks on Chase Street. They want sidewalks everywhere. And I kind of look at this as in 5 or 6 years from now, we're going back to $330,000 a year. That's what we're going back to. We're going back to having to decide whether to design a road or to build a road. And I just want to be prudent with the money, and I 100% agree with them that a sidewalk would be really nice there. It's not a difficult project to do. If you vote to do it, it's no skin off my back, quite frankly. We can get it done, not this year because everybody's busy, but I'm just looking at the future, and I'm looking towards, looking kind of at the past and the future, and looking at, we have this small window to do the best we can with the money that we're getting basically free to us. We need to be prudent with it, and that's why I decided not to put sidewalks. Myself and Phil were combined on not putting sidewalks on that side of the road. So again, whatever the board decides we do, but that's our thought process.
Ms. O'Malley?
Just to verify, when you say a couple houses had sidewalks, it's 4 out of 8 houses have sidewalks already. When you get to the top of Greeley Street, Highland does not have sidewalks, and that's the ambulance street. So you're asking people with a baby carriage or on foot to get to the top of Greeley and go down the ambulance street with no sidewalks on either side. So as an ER nurse and a mother, that to me does not make any sense why you would do 90% of the road and not finish it completely and have sidewalks. I spoke with the Architectural Access Board, and they had just said to me, that seems like a common sense thing, and that would be something like Americans with Disabilities Act would need to know about that, because you should have access to a hospital. I'm aware the cemetery is on the left-hand side, but we have people walking from low-income housing, people walk from Lancaster to the hospital with no sidewalks, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, there's sidewalks on one side of the street.
on the opposite side of where the hospital is, so, I mean, I think there should be sidewalks to access to the hospital.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Is there an estimate on what it would cost for concrete sidewalks from the top of Greeley to that Lancaster line on the right-hand side without having to change the berm that's already
Yeah, we
there?
wouldn't have to change the berm, because we could dig, you know, it's gonna cause a little bit of damage, but nothing outrageous. We're gonna dig through the driveways and repave the driveways in. My guess would be, and I don't have a price because I can't really use the unit prices that we had in the bid because that was continuous work and, you know, large quantities, but I would guess you're in the $75,000 to $80,000 range, somewhere in that range.
Hold on.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion, right, that we do look into it, at least get a price, and go from there.
Hold on. Can we just, I just want to make sure everybody gets their comments first. I'll hold on to that one. Are you done?
I was going to
Oh, okay.
suggest the same.
I'm just curious, Chris, is there, totally understand about the like priority of the sidewalks, making a decision. I mean, everyone would like to have nice sidewalks, I get that. Is there any way that this could get fit onto the priority list, like somewhere down, you mentioned like a 2 or 3 year window. Is there some way that maybe it could get put on like at the end of that window, if maybe even just as like a nice to have, if things work out and there's money left in the budget for it?
I mean, we could, but I mean, we're looking years ahead. We're not looking, you know, next spring. I'm looking years ahead, like Main Street, end to end, you know, needs probably 80% of the sidewalks need to be redone with granite curbing, and that's 1.5 miles. So, you know, I don't have a crystal ball as to how long this money's going to last that we have to spend, and I'm trying to be prudent with the money, and again, I don't believe there's that many people at all that walk down that stretch of the road because, first of all, the hospital's not like Savage Field. You know, generally speaking, people don't walk to the hospital. People do walk there. Again, it's not like nobody walks to the hospital, but it's not like for instance, we're paving Front Street and Winter Street. We're not going to put sidewalks on either of those roads. All the roads we're going to do this year and next year, 7 roads, we're putting a sidewalk on one side of one road. They all lead to somewhere. The Front Street and Winter Street, middle school kids walk down that every single day to go to the middle school, and we're not putting sidewalks on either one of those roads. That's why I'm saying in my view, we pick and choose. Would the sidewalks be helpful there? Absolutely. I'm not saying that would be a complete waste of money. I'm not at all saying they wouldn't be great to have. I'm just saying we decide things based on trying to do what makes the most sense for the most amount of people. And that's what the decision we made was. So,
Hold on one second. Yep. You done?
yeah, that's all. And again, it's like if
I've lived up there all my life. I don't know where Chris gets his information. I see people walking there all the time. There's no sidewalks coming out of the hospital, never mind getting into the hospital. Now, if you come up Greeley Hill, right, it stops there. It doesn't even continue all the way to the hospital. So I don't know what study he did or where he thought he did it, but there's people walking there all the time. You have to walk out into the road coming out of the hospital. That's where they don't go the back way as you're coming out to go where the ambulance come in. They come out the emergency room door and they walk down the road. There's no sidewalks there. And I don't know how many times people come down there, and it's the runway that's going about 60 miles an hour anyways. It's just, like you said, we're just trying to get it so, everybody knows that on that road alone, it's always changed. You've got a brand-new house at the end of Greeley Street. You've got a 3-family there. You've got a brand-new couple in the Murphy's house. You've got another 3-decker right there. And then you come down to Jillian's house and gone down. That's, we're talking probably kids coming and going all the time.
It's our bus stops too for the whole street. So there's 4 houses that don't have a sidewalk, and that's where the bus is being picked up, K through 8. There's ambulances from 4 different towns going fast with no sirens on. So it's really not like, would I like it? Would it look nice in front of my house? It's a safety issue. Chase Street doesn't have a hospital on it with ambulances. Water Street doesn't have ambulances coming and going all times of the day on silent sirens. It's truly a safety issue. I don't want to be right someday that we should have had sidewalks there.
Mr. Chair, I agree with Selectman Buzzno. I think if we can get, have Chris look into getting a price and then at least having some information and data in front of us, maybe to make a decision at that point. But, you know, I think Chris has stated his decision-making, and I think the residents have also indicated why it's important to them. That's all on the table. Let's just figure out what the number is and proceed accordingly.
Yeah, it's not going to get done there's no way the contractor could get there this year to do it anyway, so I can get a price before your next meeting, and it's not a problem at all.
Mr. John, you want to make that a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion in a second? Okay. Just go ahead.
Just quick before I appreciate you guys coming in here. I have a tough time buying in on the walking to the hospital argument. I don't really think that there is that much of a need for people walking to and from the hospital.
There's 3 people that walk by shift work every single morning that are walking from Lancaster. I mean, but they're on, when people are discharged, like you have mental health patients walking in the middle of the street.
I'm about to agree with the other side of your argument. I think you do bring up a good point, though, about ambulances driving fast down the street there. I do think that is a valid point that I have not, that I didn't consider. My only last question before we make the motion and ask Chris to just get us some numbers is, Chris, is there a possibility for like a lower cost option aside from like the elaborate like granite sidewalk?
I mean, the only 2 options for the sidewalk there, the berm is already in place, so really, and the reason why I don't put a lot of asphalt sidewalks in is the only option would be an asphalt sidewalk, and the money you save to put asphalt in compared to concrete, I don't think is worth it. I think you're better off doing concrete. When you come to a berm compared to granite curb, it's a massive amount of money. The berm's already there. All we're going to do is there's a shoulder in the road or a grass strip. There'll be a grass strip if we end up putting the sidewalk in. We'll dig beyond that grass strip, form it, pour it, and then tie all of the driveways back in. But there's really not enough savings to put in asphalt on one strip instead of concrete when everything else up there is concrete. It doesn't make any, it's not saving anywhere near enough money to do that. So.
It's just, I think we just have to be careful. We want to be accommodating to citizens. At the same time, we can't just agree to put in sidewalks every time somebody comes and asks for a sidewalk. So I think we have to, get some numbers and maybe give it some more consideration.
There's a motion on the table. Any discussion? Just so people at home are understand what we're talking about, the state gives us Chapter 90 money. It's about $340,000 a year. It's based on how many miles of road we have. And traditionally, that's what most cities and towns have to work with when it comes to infrastructure work. We've been blessed and cursed by a landfill that needed recapping, and as a result of that, every year we've been dedicating money from that recapping project to the tune of $1 million to $2 million to projects that otherwise would not be funded. We don't have a blank check to do this. Again, no one loves sidewalks. Ask my wife more than I do. Don't park any sidewalks and shovel them when the time comes. But we try to come up with a plan to make sure, knowing that this gold mine is going to go away, that we're addressing from the inside out the streets that need it most. It's not that we don't want it, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. It's not like we're trying to punish certain neighborhoods or do this and that. We don't have a blank check, and we're running out of time here. So, again, just to put it in perspective, I think the Water Street project, again, I've said this before, from High Street to Main Street, not the big one, the little one, I think that was about $450,000. So that's 1 1/3 of what we would normally get, and that's about 1/6 of a mile. So that just puts it into perspective how much money we're going to have eventually to spend on these projects versus what we have now. So we're not being stingy, we're just trying to be prudent. And that's why we make these decisions, which, again, nobody wants to make. So I just want to make sure everyone at home understands what we're dealing with.
So the original plans, I was told that they were to be on both sides, and then it just changed for these 8 houses. But again, like, we've already had our driveway redone, he has to do it again. So like, how much money, because now with the berms, we have 5-inch puddles in front of our house. So we've repaved our driveway at the end of last week, and they have to come back again. Would it have made a difference if they just kept with the original plans and we wouldn't be having this water problem?
No, the water problem is, the original plans had asphalt sidewalks, both sides, end to end, no concrete sidewalks anywhere. The granite curb and the berm that was put in right now is exactly the same as it was on the original plans. There was never an original plan that showed granite curbs up that way. I have them right here.
He's got the fact is that plans change. I mean, we get when we go from a 25% project to a 50 to a 75%, I mean, that's why we have plans, and that's where we review them to see how they work in real life.
I have the
So,
original plans right here from
we
2019.
can go over it. I think
That's
there's a
what they
motion on the
show.
table, there's a motion right now to look into how much it's going to cost and to continue at that point. We're not going to vote on it, we're not going to approve the project tonight until we know how much it costs. So I'm going to stop discussion. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0. So we're going to find out how much it costs. And
The next meeting, in 2 weeks, we'll have an answer?
Yep.
yes,
Well, in 2 weeks, you'll have the number. It's up to
We'll have
them
a number,
whether you
that's
have
up
an
to
answer
them.
or
Not an
not, so.
answer,
yep. Well, yeah, it would help to know how much we're going to spend here. So we'll get an update for the next meeting and put it on there.
So don't need to do a citizen's petition
Nope.
at this point, just wait to hear from you guys.
It'll, assuming we have a number, it'll be on the next agenda, which is the 20th? Is that right?
I believe the 20th.
20th? It's the third Wednesday. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to call me or plan on being here if you want to talk about it, but otherwise, if there's a problem, we'll let you know. Yeah, there's no petition necessary. Yeah.
I'll try to get you guys the number within the next week so you have
Great.
time to look at it and think about it, so that's no problem.
Okay. Thanks again
Thank
for
you.
coming out.
Thank you.
Next up, Chris is still here. We're going to, the Superintendent of Public Works is recommending that the board approve high bidder Anderson Timber Harvesting from Westminster in the amount of $47,512 for timber harvesting in the Wiki Priki property in Sterling. This is something we've been doing regularly just to make sure the property's taken care of up there. Do you want to give us an update, Chris?
Yeah, we've done it actually just once before. We did it on
Sorry.
the, basically across the street from this parcel, and the project went really well. It's really, it's amazing the difference in what the forest looks like after you do a thinning like this. Some of the smaller stuff starts growing up, and actually the state was out there, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they were thrilled with how it came out. So it's really what it is. It's going in there, taking down a lot of the older canopy that's kind of shading and taking over the forest, taking out a lot of the dead stuff. They leave a lot of brush and scrub on the ground to, for rodents and insects and everything else to live in and grow in. And part of this project also is part of the bid package was to maintain and make sure that we keep the walking trails walkable and passable when this project's done. And they're going to have to do a sweep of that trail system before the project is completed. So it's good for the forest. I mean, there's arguments in either direction. I mean, I witnessed it, and I was really shocked at how great the project across the street within about 2 years just looks fantastic. So it's some revenue for the town to do the dam maintenance that we have to do up there, the safety inspections. Instead of coming out of our pocket, we spend this money, and it's not a tremendous amount of money. It's $47,000, and but it does take the curse off of paying for the dam inspections. So.
Can we give Sterling a heads up? I know there was a bit of a kerfuffle last time. Do we need to let them know, or just could we give them a heads up that this is going to happen?
No, we'll let them know.
Absolutely, once we go forward. And also, I think the big thing that Mr. McGowan indicated, what we've had reached out recently from people in Sterling that were involved in the Trails Committee. So they do have a very active trail committee. They've marked all the trails. They have a brochure. So they've done a lot of work years ago, and they're hoping that that's maintained. And Chris made sure he put that in the bid so that that's part of the project, is that we're not going to disturb those trails. So that will certainly make the people that we've been hearing from mostly, that should make them happy.
Great. It's a pleasure of the board.
I'll make a
I have a
motion.
question.
Question, go ahead.
So in our packet, it looks like we have 2 bids from the same job. Is that correct? These are both pertaining to the same
Yeah.
property? Can you help me understand why we would select a bid that's over twice as much?
'Cause they're paying us.
We're getting the money.
We're getting the money. So they cut down the trees, sell the timber, so we're gonna get $45,000. If we went with the other bidder, we'd get $20,000, so that's why. So this is one of the rare cases where you actually go for the high bidder, not the low bidder.
Okay.
Yep.
They're taking the wood and selling it.
There's half of the sidewalks right there. What do you have?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a
remember
motion.
that.
I'll make a motion, we accept the bid for $47,512 for cutting of the trees up there.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the points of emphasis this year is improved communication with our department heads. We'd like to welcome Phil Duffy, Director of Community Economic Development, to update us on what his department's been up to and a few key initiatives as far as downtown, COVID-19 assistance, and surplus property. Welcome, Mr. Duffy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I prepared a kind of a brief statement, which is kind of a mission statement for the office, and a description of recently concluded activities and what we see as some of the activities we'll be working on in the next period of time. So with your permission, I'm just going to read from a piece of paper.
Go nuts.
Community and Economic Development Office supports activities that promote economic vitality and enhance the quality of life available to residents. This office is responsible for planning and analysis of the community and for devising programs and identifying funding to support its mission. The office works regularly and closely with other town departments, with residents, with businesses, property owners, and other stakeholders in the community. The office also works with regional and statewide agencies that support its mission. In a broad sense, the office endeavors to create environments that are conducive to quality of life and economic activity. This may be a physical environment, such as the recent downtown improvements, or work towards the revitalization of the Supernon parcel or the Clinton Home Improvement Program. It may be a regulatory environment, such as changes to zoning to encourage investment in housing in the downtown or even cannabis, or it could be regulations such as the rapid development of outdoor dining permitting procedures during COVID. Or it may be an environment of incentives, such as the sign and facade improvement programs, the Opportunity Zone designation, biotech ready, community status, or vacant storefront tax credits. So what we do effectively is try to create an environment where private actors can feel comfortable making investments in quickly. In a narrow and specific sense, the office also furthers its mission by working directly with stakeholders and residents to address their concerns, and by being a conduit of information connecting people who need assistance to people who can help. Obviously, the most recently completed improvement to a physical environment is the reconstruction of High and Church Streets. All things considered, I think the project went pretty smoothly, which is a testament to Mr. McGowan's ability, and also, I'd also like to point out Mr. D'Amico's dedication to the project. The final project you see is in no small part a consequence of their efforts during the construction period. In the coming few months, it is expected that the finishing touches, including trash receptacles, EV charging stations, wayfinding signage, and those last 3 light poles on Church Street will be completed. In the coming term, the office will be involved in numerous projects intended to build on these downtown improvements, including establishing a quarterly meeting with the DPW, the Facilities Department, and the Police Chief to basically check in and evaluate how maintenance is going, how cleaning is going, how parking is going, all those kinds of systems we have in place, just to stay on top of them. Because Brian's got the money, Chris has got the crews, and the chief has got the enforcement. So we'll just make sure that we're monitoring progress and making changes as they're warranted. We're going to implement recommendations of the local rapid recovery program, including marketing and online support for small businesses, creation of a roster of events, and also the administrative capacity to ensure their success, and new and continuing beautification projects, including the sign program. And we also will explore the possible use of ARPA funds to support economic recovery in a business district. This is one of the allowed uses of ARPA funds in the legislation. We don't know what the shape of that is yet. It's my hope that as the Board of Selectmen and the community kind of devise their overall strategy for the use of these funds, that economic recovery will be part of that discussion. And I'm hoping to make a meaningful ask of those funds over the coming years from 2022 to 2026. Other projects that we're going to work on is Jeans Towing and Supernon. Both of those projects, we should be making some decisions on those in this coming year. Both of those projects have grant applications in that would kind of further enhance their marketability. We're waiting to hear on those. Ash Street is a CDBG project we just applied for. We would work on that. The critical project we're really working on in terms of environments is the Counterpane Brook stormwater drainage system. As you know, that system has failed twice in the past 11 years, causing damage and particularly inflicting damage on our largest employer. As weather-driven events become more erratic and frequent, I think we need to look, we are looking at this 170-year-old drainage system and try to devise and implement mitigating efforts to kind of reduce the stress on that culvert. Effectively, 4.5 square miles of Sterling, Lancaster, and Clinton drain through a pipe that runs underneath downtown Clinton. And there are stress points in that system. Other things we'll be working on include exploring the possible use of ARPA funds to support affordable or senior housing. Danielle Fahey and Deb Goodsell and I have had those conversations. We'll also be looking to, I forgot to print the second page. We'll also be looking to do things like overhaul the office's webpage on the town website to get more information out there. We have some new information. We need to kind of peel back on the COVID information and get that all in place where it's a more useful resource for the community and does a better job of trumpeting the particular qualities of the community. So that's what I have for my departmental report. If you guys want to ask any questions about the nitty-gritty of any of these projects, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yeah, Phil, thanks for coming to the meeting tonight. I just wanted to follow up on a couple things. And first thing I just wanted to talk to you about is, and forgive me because I confused some of these different programs, but the local rapid response program, was that the one where we did the walkthrough, went up and down High Street?
Yep.
So that's just my first question is because we did that walkthrough in April, and I thought we had a lot of momentum, we had a lot of great ideas, but then we haven't had any follow-up on it. I'm kind of disappointed. I figured we'd kind of start to kind of whittle down those ideas to more realistic ones because there was a lot of things flying around, and I think they were all creative. They were good ideas, but what's the status of that program, and are we going to be able to get back on track to that to kind of revisit some of these ideas and come together with a list that's realistic and able to be implemented?
Yes, as Carrie knows, Carrie Salwa, who works for CMRPC, those final reports are due on October 8th, on Friday. And what is that? I don't know if you guys remember, I came to you with a list of project goals at the beginning that were signed off on. The consultants took the feedback that was given from the walkthrough that we had, critically the survey, where I think we had 31 responses, 36 responses, something in that number from the businesses, and another piece of information. But they can combine that into a list of kind of loose, project-oriented objectives. And I can tell you what those are. These are, again, their goal is to come up with recommendations that a community can implement. And in many ways, ours are kind of more refined and esoteric because we've already done so much in the downtown. Would you like me to read each bullet item?
Sure.
On the LRP? Okay. They're broken down into areas: the public realm, private realm, revenue and sales, administrative capacity, and culture and the arts. Under the public realm, there's a recommendation to formalize and make permanent, clear and streamlined process for using public space for outdoor dining. That's kind of a layup because in the process of the whole LRP statewide, toolkit for implementing outdoor dining has been developed and is being made available to all communities. They're recommending that we implement the wayfinding and branding program, and that will happen probably before the end of the year. To improve parking through better signage and enforcement. Again, that's something we've talked about as well. And these come out in response to responses from the survey. You know, we know that we have a parking plan, but the people at the time they took the survey had a concern about parking. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're not ignoring that or just assuming that because we already have a plan in place that it's taken care of. Let's see. There's a recommendation to develop an approach to support owners to renovate and restore 5 historic properties. Effectively, we have a number of buildings that are underutilized. I'd be happy to list them for you. If we can do something more impactful to create, again, an environment conducive to investment, utilizing historic, making more easily available historic investment tax credits or opportunity zone funds, all these things that are in place so that we can kind of maybe accelerate the pace of investment in these buildings. That's what we're looking to do. And that follows upon things that we've done in the past couple of years, such as the zoning that was passed at town meeting in 2020 to allow for as-of-right development of upper floors. There's a recommendation to private well for those people to follow through. For revenue and sales, facilitate and assist businesses to undertake shared marketing strategies, and including a joint online presence, and that comes directly out of the survey. Develop a process for placemaking through events, pop-up stores, and programming to attract visitors, attract and enliven public spaces, and to enrich community life. And that's something that we've also been working on. And I'll speak to that a little further down the agenda. Provide one-on-one technical assistance, especially with regard to increasing individual businesses' online presence. Again, that comes out of the survey. And let's see, increase capacity of the capacity of downtown stakeholders by building on existing relationships between businesses, Discover Clinton, regional chambers of commerce, and the town. And this again goes back to something that we've already been working on, trying to whether it's Discover Clinton or some other entity, to foster or support and encourage the creation of a stakeholder entity that can advocate for their interests and represent them to the town, rather than us trying to guess what people want and constantly going out saying, what do you want, what do you want, what do you want? Let them find a place where they can figure that out and come to us.
Okay, and I appreciate it, Phil. And I think maybe I misunderstood. I think I thought when we got together in April that I thought that group was going to kind of continue to meet. Because you said the deadline it's coming up, right? October for this to be submitted?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought we were going to meet more frequently as well. But the summer just got away from us.
Yeah, because there was some ideas that I would have liked to advocate for. Can you just email the selectmen that list that you read off and maybe put it up on the website for people to
we say these recommendations, a couple of them, they're followed by reports from what they call subject matter experts. So really in terms of an LRP committee, that can become an implementation committee as well. We will have these recommendations, we can prioritize them and figure out how we can support their implementation. Okay.
I mean, that's all I have for the local rapid response.
Okay.
Mrs. Owl.
Do you want to come up? Yep.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just wanted to note
Just state your name so everyone knows who you are.
Carrie Solid.
Thank you.
I just wanted to note that in our first meeting with the consultant, Clinton is only allowed to put 10 projects forward for the local rapid recovery plans. But what we asked him to do was put together like a supplemental project list, kind of everything that we talked about on our walk. And I do think it's important that he adds that before the deadline on Friday, because especially for ARPA funding, we'll be able to use those funds for projects as long as they're noted somewhere in the plan. So
okay.
if we could just ask him to make sure he puts that supplemental project list in there, that would be
I want to follow up with you. So you're implying that the state is basically linked use of ARPA funds to the LRP?
No, but there's certain funds that can be used as long as you can reference them in minutes, meeting minutes, or in a plan.
Yeah, okay. I get you. Thanks, Harry.
Actually, Carrie, would you mind, because
Keep
Mr.
going.
Chair, because the next one is, because I did ask, and I know Phil was coming up anyway to give his report on economic development, but with the Delta variant, COVID lasting a lot longer than anyone was planning, and I know you guys were great in the first wave with Discover Clinton and working with Phil. You guys were great with giving financial assistance. I was hoping, could you guys just speak briefly to any existing COVID relief programs that are still available right now to people that may, because there are some businesses that I think are still now they're, it's been going on so long, they're starting to think, is there still something available some assistance that we could apply for?
I'll go first. Okay. I'll speak to the town's program, and you can speak to Discover Clinton. To summarize our activities to date, with the Small Business Resiliency Loan Program, we assisted 21 businesses, making available $107,750. $15,000 of that and change has already been repaid. So we're starting to see those funds come back to us. Simultaneously, we transferred $100,000 of CDBG money from the Design and Facade Program to a micro enterprise assistance program. There's kind of a narrow band of qualifications for the businesses that can use those funds, but we were able to provide 6 businesses with $100,000. There is still additional micro enterprise funding assistance available. We are part of a regional grant with the town of Webster. They have not expended their funds, so that if a local business was interested in learning about that, these are grant funds to benefit businesses with fewer than 5 employees where the owner is a person of low or moderate income. If a business is interested in applying to that program, please get in touch with me and we'll refer you over to Webster. The Board of Selectmen had originally, in March of 2020, approved the use of $150,000 from the Community Development Fund for this resiliency loan program. As I mentioned, we have basically a net balance right now of $92,750. So I had come to you a couple months ago and requested that we close the program, but the money is still there if there seems to be a need or if there's a demand that warrants it. I haven't received that need now. The federal government came through and really gave out a lot of money. But if the need arises, we still have dry powder.
Okay.
And we were able to help 22 businesses through the original LinkedIn Foundation Fund money that we got. And that was coming in 2 different troughs. And we decided to hold off on the second one in case COVID comes back, in case the business is needed again. But yeah, we were able to help 22 businesses, $2,000 of these. And we do have some money left over if any businesses we decided to put the brakes on.
Okay. So, I mean, it'd be fair, businesses encourage them to reach out to you guys if they think they may need just to talk to you about some possible assistance and moving forward. Okay, great.
In sum, working just through these local entities in the small town hall, we were able to push out a little over $250,000 to assist local businesses. So I think that I think we all should appreciate that effort and the direction that was given by your board to initiate this kind of assistance. I mean, Carrie can speak to it, but I'm not aware of any other community of our type that was able to do that with the kind of funds we used. So.
And I haven't even told you this yet, Phil, but we've been able to pilot the program that you put together, and we've been able to use it in some of our communities where I work. So, thanks, Phil.
Thanks. Okay.
And last thing on the list, Phil, I know the Delta variant put a damper on a lot of things, but I know we were talking about it was probably back in March or April, about a pop-up store initiative that we wanted to try to get started along with some community support, but we wanted the town to kind of be the driver of it. I'm just curious, I understand that there may have been reasons why it's not why it's not going right now, but has there been any groundwork laid as far as like vendors or possible events, maybe even coming up in the spring, or where are we at? Have we made any progress on that pop-up store initiative?
I'll speak to that.
Okay.
In short, yes, but not in the form that we were contemplating in the spring.
Okay.
I reached out last week to the local resident who was volunteering to coordinate vendors and that kind of thing. I haven't heard back. I heard she may have moved out of town. So that portion of it is still in the water. We're there to support with space, coordinating with interior space perhaps in the winter. We have simultaneously been working on the idea of implementing a pop-up pub in the vacant lot next to Aubuchon's. The owner of the lot is more than willing to help us out. The brewers at Sterling Street are more than willing to help us out. I took it upon myself to interview a couple people, and about 6 weeks ago I hired an event planner to basically coordinate that. In short, I just don't have that expertise. So we have some preliminary estimates on what build-out costs would be and what administrative costs would be. And we're looking at a couple of things right now. Right now, we're looking at the idea of maybe creating a kind of artisan market that can be open on the 4 weekends between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I have a meeting with that event coordinator tomorrow to kind of, it's kind of a no-go decision. Really, there needs to be time for marketing. We need to have some confidence that there's vendors who are willing to participate. If she feels good and she's able to demonstrate to me that her good feelings are warranted, then we'll probably proceed. And I would probably use some of the shared streets money on the build out of this, because you can build on private property as long as it's open to the public. In terms of the ongoing administration of this into the next year, that is something that I'd be looking to ARPA funds for, because again, if it's economic recovery in a business district, and it's referred to in our LRP, then I think that would be a terrific use of that windfall money to try and get these things going while the money's here. In terms of the brewery, same kind of idea. We may be getting out of beer season, but if we're not even able to build out this year because of just the timelines, we'll be ready to go next year. And if we're able to put together the artisans together but not get the build out on the lot in time, there's a couple vacant storefronts that I think we can approach the owner or the lesser and move those people inside. So.
Yeah, because that's great, because I think pop-up store, I think a lot of people think outside tents, but I think I would like to start thinking of a way to be able to do that in the wintertime, the way that the Matchstick Market had an indoor spot. Yeah, if like you said, if there was a spot on High Street that was available that we could open up in the wintertime, even have maybe just 4 or 5 different vendors that would qualify. I think that would be great long term. Yeah. That sounds good. Thank you.
And just to finalize, I really see the municipality's role in here is to facilitate this, but then put it into the hands of people who have a stake in it and are either making money or not making money on it. That's the only way these things kind of work. We're a one-person office, and the learning curve to become proficient in that kind of event planning and implementation was too steep.
Did we want to cover surplus property as far as meshing together any kind of town efforts with the task force, which I think met this afternoon?
Yes, the task force met this afternoon. Mr. Busnell was in attendance. The task force discussed 7 properties that are town-owned and their potential use or disposal. John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we're looking to do is probably go at each of these kind of one at a time individually. And what we'd be looking at would be really two aspects of these properties. One is what is the facility or property itself? What condition is it in? What kind of expenses can we associate with its renovation or use? And then secondly, what is the use? What are the community's needs? What do we know now presently, and what do we forecast as the needs of this community moving forward? And are any of these properties a good match? So that's really 2 things you look at. One is architects and engineers, and the other is either an internal analysis of how we organize the use of current space by current departments. And it was pointed out that, for instance, we have a Parks and Rec building that was built when the Parks and Rec had its own maintenance staff, but that's not the case now. So is there something that can be done with those kinds of spaces? So the question of, again, how are we doing what we do now in terms of how we accommodate the programs we run now or the departments we run now? And also, what do we think the community desires moving forward in the future? You know we have a report on the library, for instance, that says the library is very limited in its adaptability because of its method of construction. There's been talk of something like a Boys and Girls Club. There's been talk of a need for more senior or affordable housing. We don't know if any of these properties are a good match for that. So there's, in addition to kind of doing an analysis of the bricks and mortar, there's also doing analysis of needs and the match out there. So you may remember that last year, just prior to COVID, your board authorized me to issue, with Russ, the then facilities director, to issue an RFP to do some of these analyses. That didn't get done as other things moved to the forefront, but if one strategy may be that we devise a way to figure out what our community needs are, and if we need to hire somebody to facilitate that, we write an RFP and ask somebody to tell us what they would charge to do that. And then separately, maybe on a building-by-building basis, we do that, analysis of the structure to understand what it's all about. So, and we've already done one on the fire station. Not that the library is surplus property. We've already done one on the library. But if we look at the administration building, for instance, or the SEMA building, that's what we would need to do. We would need to understand what we're getting into.
So are you asking, should we hire a consultant to kind of manage these task force meetings?
No, not at all. No, this is something that we batted around today. This is the first time the committee's meeting. I'm just giving kind of an update on what we're thinking might be the relationship between this task force and the exercise that your board has already approved, which is analysis of community needs and facilities. Rather than do one big one, which we talked about doing with really an eye towards the Armory, maybe do more strategic ones that are specific to whatever property we're looking at that time.
Yeah, we already approved the money, so I think, I just want to make sure that we're not doing two separate efforts that might go in different directions. I'd rather, if we're bringing in professional help to give us a big picture look, and we're doing our assessments on the ground, I think we can mesh those together and come up with what we need is a comprehensive plan. I mean, we've got a lot of pieces moving around, and I think they're all going to, these dominoes are just going to start hitting each other if we go piece by piece. So I applaud the effort to look at everything we have on a local level, but I think we've reached our bandwidth as far as the subcommittee goes, and if we've already authorized money from the community fund, it's not tax money, to bring in some help, I would urge you to do that as soon as possible.
Okay. I think what will happen in the committee is, this was our first meeting, so I think we'll probably try to hone in a little bit more and spend a little bit of time looking at the model that I just described. And if we move forward, I mean, I guess the funds are already approved, but I think as a matter of course we would, because it's a subcommittee, it's a task force that reports to this board, I assume. We would be reporting to you, prior to any significant action.
Okay, sounds good.
Great.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
the board feels that we're going in that direction, so any input or direction that the board has, we want to make sure that we're including that as we meet.
Well, great. We'll still, the surplus subcommittee will still be meeting, so I can get updates from, thankfully, Selectman Busno was able to attend some of the task force meetings, but we'll still have some surplus subcommittee meetings where we'll get updated on, and then in the committee reports, I can update the board on where we're at.
Good.
So we should be able to still provide direction as we move forward.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Duffy? Great. Let us know how we can help.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next up, we received one new addition. I know we've got a pretty good plate as far as holdovers from last year's golden objectives. Ms. Perouse brought up something we've been trying to tackle for a while, and I'll let her talk about it. Hi.
That's under old and new business.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Do you want to, I'm happy, it's basically website and social media, which is something we've struggled with since we don't have someone oversee that. So if you want to, you can either talk about what you'd like to do, and we can kick it back to a subcommittee, or we can get some opinions from the board. I'm our de facto social media manager right now, so I'm happy to let you know what I've been trying to do, but please let us know what you are thinking.
Yeah, I just had, I mean, marketing and communications is the field that I'm in, so I obviously have a lot of experience here. So I think that I was reviewing the website, and I think that we can hopefully make it more of a resource to the point of, citizens, if they're unsure of where to go for things, like just maybe take a fresh look at the website and see how it can be more of a resource for citizens looking for information. I know each department is responsible for their page, but maybe looking at it a little bit more holistically. And also maybe giving recommendations to people who, may not make their living from creating websites like I do. Maybe just saying, like, it would be great if there was an explanation of what each board did, or maybe the section that says, how do I? But I found a few other towns who have a more robust section, and maybe learning from them and leveraging what they've been doing just to make our site a little bit better. So I think it's a long-term
Very long-term,
goal.
believe me.
What?
It's very longer term than you think.
Well, like I said, this is something that I do for a living, so I am pretty passionate about it. But, before I joined the board, a lot of people even said, like, I didn't know when town meeting was. And I know that people in this building often, eat, sleep, and breathe it, but the average citizen may not. So, I think there's a lot of discussion of, like, how can we push information out to the citizens, either via social media or updates to our website, or just to make an effort. And I think that, even just putting in some processes and procedures, or just highlighting it, could be helpful to the people of Clinton. So that was why I, had input on it. But I think I understand, not necessarily like rebuilding that website from scratch, but I think that we can, kind of incrementally make improvements to it over time. I do think we're at a little bit of a disadvantage since we don't have someone on staff dedicated to it. So I want to be realistic about that, but I don't want to just say, just because we don't have someone, like, we just shouldn't do anything. So it is a long-term project, but I think that I have some good suggestions and can bring something to the table there.
Well, here's where, and I would love, if anybody wants to chime in, or we could, again, kick it down to the subcommittee. When we rebooted the website, the idea was, and this is where the disconnect between what I think this board wants and what actually happens gets, it's hard to say frustrating, because there's no mechanism to go from what we want. The idea was all the department heads are trained in how to update their pages, and we were hoping that it would be a bit of, like we see downtown, a little bit peer pressure. If certain departments were updating it, the other departments would say, oh, well, I have to keep up. That didn't necessarily happen, obviously. And so what I would, and social media is another complete animal to wrangle. We didn't have any presence. We have a Facebook page now, which I update. We mainly created for COVID updates, but if another town department, senior center, police are the most active right now, I'll try and, if I see it, I'll try and share something, or if town meeting's coming up. But again, that falls to me, and which I don't mind, but it's not a long-term solution. Mm-hmm. So I just don't know, and I don't know how we get. Because I do agree that there should be some consistency, and how we get consistency throughout the website, how we get the policy, or how we get the look that we want, or how we get the communication strategy that we want pushed down so that it actually happens without putting more on Michael's plate, or relying on volunteers, or relying on us. So I'm open to ideas.
Keep in mind, Mr. Chair, we are in the middle of discussing the job description for an assistant town administrator.
Yep.
This might be a nice fit. We might want to have that in there into the job description, that they have some role in website maintenance and social media engagement and you know, with guidance from the select board. Yeah, I think that would be something we should consider.
You know, I think just like you were just mentioning about not having Michael have to get bogged down in website maintenance, I would hope that an assistant town administrator, we wouldn't be setting up for the same thing. If departments have been trained on it, then I think it would be, you know, prudent to integrate that into their goals and objectives. So that way, you know, it's not Michael or a future assistant town administrator's responsibility to be doing web design or web upkeep. You know, it has to be put on the department head or whoever it is, and then we can find out where the gaps are in between that and then come up with a solution. But the last thing I'd like to see is Mr. Ward updating the town website.
That's two of us. More important things to
And,
do.
and two things I agree, Mr. Cobus, you know, that's something we need to reinforce with the department heads, and that's something as I'm doing my evaluations, that's going to be a goal and something that I want to see them get more active in. But secondly, the big thing is, I think having that outside perspective, and I know Julie has helped with that, and other board members, by at least highlighting some of the things that you would like to see, that you're hearing from the public, or that the public would like to see, that they could tell us. Because sometimes we do have blinders when we're, you know, in the town government, and we say, well, this is what we think people want, but we're only limiting to what they're really looking for. So any of that input on perspective of, hey, we'd like to see this, or why don't you have that, or this town does that, that's great ideas. So I appreciate that.
You know, and at some point, when you have a website and you have Facebook, there becomes almost a burden of updating both of them. You know, you want it directed to the website where everything's there, and maybe if it's, people find that it's user-friendly and there's everything that they go there looking for, they're able to find with ease, then the social media aspect maybe doesn't become as important, unless you have somebody that you can fit into that role. You know, if the town hires a social media specialist, right? But until we get that, you know, focus on one aspect of it, and, you know, let people in town kind of forward the Facebook aspect around versus you.
Mr. Chair, just the last thing real quick. I do want to commend you guys too, Selectman Kerrigan and Mike Ward, for updating the website, like, was that maybe three years ago or so? I mean, you guys did bring it into a much more, compared to what it was before, you guys did a lot of hard work, and I think the website looks good now. But, you know, we're always still looking to continuously improve, so.
And it's a living, it's a living thing. It's not a road sign. Like, it's got to, people have different expectations now than they did 5 or 10 years ago. And if these things aren't living and breathing, then they're dead. And that's useless. Like, if they're going on and finding dead links or finding, you know, 3-year-old reports, it's worse than having nothing almost. So that's why I've tried to. The Facebook page is not a community. It's one-way traffic, because, you know, I don't want to be managing discussions on there. We want to just get the information out, and, you know, if I see something that catches fire, I'll come in the back door as my other account, which, believe me, is way too much time. But yeah, it's frustrating, because there are a lot of towns out there that, I mean, there's a tremendous opportunity to communicate with people, either through the website or through social media, that I think we can take advantage of. It's just, again, trying to make it work with the team we have, and making it work best with the team we have. So, yeah, let's, you know, we can, I like the suggestions you sent over, so let's build off of those, and if you want to kick it down to the subcommittee.
Yeah, I think most of it can go through like the subcommittee, and obviously with input from anybody else on the board or citizens or whatnot. But yeah, like I said, I want to be realistic. I understand like the realistic within the limitations, but I don't want to just not do. And maybe it is, you know, suggestions to all the department heads. Say, can you do a description? This is what we're looking for. If that is something that you can aspire to.
Right, and again, I understand that people have different levels of competency and comfort with this, but this has been a very soft launch of a website. I think it's a 3-year soft launch, so I think people need to understand that this is, again, the expectations. We're in the public service business, and if we can't communicate the basics of what we're trying to do here, or what people are entitled to in this town, what their what their tax dollars are paying for, then we're failing. So this is how people communicate now, and we need to catch up with the times. It's it's just how it goes. So, go.
One last
Yep.
thing, so, are we able to have access to the analytics for how many visitors and so on that we have? If it comes down to, one thing that I think the town's done a great job on is the new platform where you can go on and pay your taxes online. Super easy, not many clicks, and if there's a way for us to, have a pay my bill link on that site, then maybe that will encourage people to go on there and use it versus having to come in and pay in person, right? But, that data should kind of drive those decisions on what do they click on when they come, and help shape it.
All right, this looks like you got a project to work on. So welcome aboard. And again, I think it's our responsibility to make sure we get this right. So again, it's a heavy stone to push. Trust me, I've been pushing it for a while, but I think we're all going in the same direction here at least. So great, we'll move on. There's no administrative business. We'll go old and new. Discover Clinton is seeking approval to close High Street on October 28th to host an annual Halloween walk in the downtown area. Sal, you want to jump up? Do you mind? Are you here for that too? Sorry, sir.
No, he's here for it.
Yep, sorry. I don't know if am I putting you on the spot here? You cover this?
I'm sorry?
Am I putting you on the spot?
No.
Okay.
No. That's what I'm here for.
Did we skip last year, or did
We
I
did
just skip last year? Okay.
yeah. So, do you want me to go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'm here on behalf of Discover Clinton, and we are looking to do the Halloween walk on Thursday, October 28th from 6 to 7:30. We are hoping to do the same exact route, even though the whole road is open and safe and well lit. We're thinking Union Street to Prospect Street, just like we did before. We've sent out emails to all of the businesses, letting them know that we're here tonight looking for permission. So everybody's prepared if we do get the permission. Obviously, it would be dependent on the public health, on the Board of Health, if they allow it. We've been meeting with we met with the police chief. He's helping us partner with this project, or this event, and we're looking to do a candy drive this year to try and help curb some of the businesses pay up to $500 because we had so many kids that night. So we're hoping to do a candy drive, and the bags of candy can be dropped off actually at the police station, which I thought was really nice of him to offer. And we're going to look to do the hayride again like we did in 2019. We already have a DJ set up. We're just looking for approval from the board to move forward with our planning efforts.
Great. Questions?
None.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Discover Clinton's request, as long as it's in accordance with the Board of Health at that time, whatever their protocol is or whatnot.
Yeah, did you guys have a chance to talk with Board of Health about this?
Not yet. We
Okay.
want to come here first.
All right, so pending approval of the Board of Health, I agree with the motion, yep.
Second? Is that
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Now, finally, we've received an application, right, for a raffle permit for the Clinton Turnverein to raise funds for the organization. Is this something, have we done raffle permits before? This might be a new one for me. Have we done raffle permits before?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, yeah, for this and other organizations as well, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do?
My name is Paul Gatto. I'm representing Turner's on Bland Street in Clinton. We're trying to start a weekly raffle for our members, a game which they call the Queen of Hearts. It is sanctioned and audited by the Mass Lottery, and they've already approved us and everything's set, but they said we do need a raffle permit from the town. I guess it goes year to year, so we're interested. We're trying to get it started as soon as we can, but
Great.
the lottery just approved us. We just told us to come here and get the permit, and then we can start it, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Clinton Turner's raffle permit request.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Anytime. I put this one on. I was just curious. I know it's, we are working with Representative Kilcoyne and Senator Cronin and Senator Chandler about the liquor license. Home rule petition is the stickiest one, but I realize it's been maybe a year and a half since there's a couple others still cooking out there, and I know things got delayed via COVID, but I wasn't sure.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick update on the pending status of the home rule petitions, but also maybe just, again, talk a little bit more on the liquor license as well, too, because they are looking, to maybe put some restrictions on those, so it's something that, at least want to make everyone aware of. But the current ones that we have, there were 5 older ones that were outstanding, and one was for when we were originally thinking of extending the police chief's working beyond the civil service age, which he's now retired, and we've made the transition there, so that one we wouldn't need anymore. So there would be 4 that were from previous, and then the 2 new ones from town meeting that were being filed over the summer, which are just starting the process. That was for the accepting town roads and for making Papacolas a full liquor package store. So those are just getting started. But the ones that were already in place, there was the bill relative to management of the Fuller Field Commission. That had passed through committee, approved, and it has gotten a vote approval by the House Representatives, and it is awaiting third reading in the Senate. So it's awaiting the the way that the bills go, they get voted by, it goes through committee, gets reported out from committee, it gets initial approval from the House, initial approval from the Senate, and then it goes back for enactment, which is the final vote, which is generally a procedural vote, and then enactment through the Senate, and then it goes to the governor for signature, and it becomes law. So that bill has gotten the approval from the House, the initial approval, and it's in third reading, awaiting the initial approval from the Senate, and then it will go back and forth. So at this point, if the Senate takes their vote, it's pretty much procedural after that. So that's where that one stands, and pretty much all the rest of them are in the exact same position. So there's the one for changing the name of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board. There is the license, the home rule petition that would change the license for Next Door Market to a full alcohol package license as well. And those 2 are in the same spot. They've passed the House, they're awaiting passage in the Senate, and then the final procedural vote. So they're all at the same spot at this point right now. And then the other one would be the additional liquor licenses, and again, they're hesitant just to give unrestricted licenses to the town, so they're trying to, work with us on what would be some reasonable constraints. They're talking about, making it for economic development, maybe putting it into a certain target zone or economic development zone that they could only be issued in that area, and they want a time frame between 1 to 3 years as to when the town will issue these. Because if they're giving us extra licenses, they don't just want us sitting on them for 10 years for whatever. If we're getting extra licenses, the hope is it's for the purpose of, stimulating the economy, creating jobs, creating businesses. So that's why they would give it to us. Otherwise, they would say, you have your quota, you have your businesses already in town, why do you need more? But this is to kind of generate new business, so they wanted to see them be active. So if it's something that the board isn't opposed to those restrictions, then, perhaps we could maybe work with the chair and work with the legislators to, try to move it forward at this point. But right now, that's kind of where it's slowing it down, is that they're hesitant without some type of qualifier on it.
Mr. Chair? So, say with like the ringside no longer being in operation, does that liquor license return to the town, or is that?
Well, right now, if a business, they have the option to try and transfer it to try to, gain their value in their business, to transfer their business to someone else. So there would be a period of time they would have to do that. That's really up to the licensing board, whether they feel you should give them 6 months, a year, 2 years, and at some point, if it's still out there, then there would be a discussion of, if you're not going to use it or you're not going to transfer it, maybe it should be turned back to the town. The only issue that we have right now with that is, that's why, partially why this bill was filed, is the town is over quota by 2 licenses right now. So if anybody turns their license back to the town, it disappears, because we can't reissue a license over the state quota. So we're trying to, when I testified at the committee hearing, I tried to say, at the very least, can we have 2 unrestricted licenses, because that would cover what's already in the community. So those are already operating, they're already out in the community, so we don't want to lose those. So at least have 2 unrestricted, and then if they're going to give us, we asked for 6, so then of the other 4, if they're going to give us 1, 2, 4, well, maybe they're willing to give us, can we talk about maybe reasonable restrictions on those? But at least 2 we want to cover, ones that are already out there. Because if a license does get turned back, or we feel there is a problem and they're not operating it properly, and we want to take it back, the town loses that license.
So right now, between the Elks Club, Ringside, and the Old Timer, there's 3 liquor licenses.
Potentially Scooby-Doo's, yeah.
Are not.
Yeah, those are ones that
Tailgaters
haven't
still out
opened
there?
up after COVID. They haven't reopened. So.
You said tailgaters?
Then, yeah, what used to be tailgaters, that's still out there too, right?
Yeah, that one is still outstanding as well.
So, I mean, we're almost better off having them float in the ether right now, because if we do get turned back, we lose them. So, yeah, it's not a great situation. That's why we're trying to get this through. So if we have, I guess we're fortunate that we have a downtown district, and we have, we've laid out economic development districts. So if we had to, to chain these things to that, we could do that. I guess I'd love to know what Phil has to say about this. And, if we get 3 years, I'd like that more than 1, but I want to be real, is it a 3 and they'll say no, or we can knock it down to 2, or how much negotiation wiggle room do we have?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we probably at least would maybe give our response and then see what they would come back with.
Yeah.
But certainly, and I know I did talk with Mr. Duffy about that with Phil, whether we would use the economic target area, the opportunity zone, the census tract, in the downtown area. So what tool we would use to lay out that district. So maybe that's something I could have Phil and myself work with the chair and try to come up with some ideas of what that area would be. So we could at least give some comfort that at least we know it's going to be in our business district, and it's not an outlier in town or something like that, that it's in the business area. So that would be one, and then the other would be, at the time frame, if they're going to say it can only be 1 to 3, I mean, we'd say at least 3. We'd like to ask a little bit more and see if they come down from there. And certainly, we're not looking to get them to sit on them, but at the same time, just the process of recruiting a business and going through, the buying a business and going through the licensing process, it takes a while. So a year or 2 can go by very quickly. So. Yeah,
and I would argue, I guess you can make the argument if we're not filling up places in 3 years, then we're not doing our work. So, let's, so we'll connect and come up with some strategies and run it by the board next meeting, and then pass it along to Representative Kilcoyne. If that's okay with everybody?
Sounds good.
Okay.
And I don't know if the board would like me to reach out to our state senators, Senator Cronin and Senator Chandler, on the other bills that are in the Senate right now. They're in a third reading, so that's really the final step before they put it to a vote for engrossment. And then once it goes to engrossment, they take their vote. And like I said, it's that enactment back and forth, and then it goes to the governor. So those seem to be fairly close, those other ones. So we could just send a note off to them asking if they would take a look at them and try to move them along.
That'd be great, and if there's anything to do to amplify that, please let me know.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just while you mentioned Senator Cronin, I just want to take a quick minute. He had reached out to a couple of the coaches in Little League and Minor League and enclosed a handwritten letter congratulating them on the championship that they had won from this past spring with the newspaper clipping, and it was very thoughtful, and we were appreciative. So if you happen to talk to them,
Very nice.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, not to speak for the board, but I've had great relationships so far with both Senator Cronin and Representative Kilcoyne. So, yeah, I think we lucked out as far as rookies go. So hopefully we keep it up.
Thank you.
That's it for old and new business.
You have the harvest.
Planning board voted against that last night, so it's a bit of a moot point right now. We'll keep an eye on that if anything changes. Is that right, Michael?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you, I didn't hear you.
The planning board voted against extending the uses of their permit. So
Tried to get it amended last night, it was denied.
planning board met last night.
They denied them
We put it on just in case they approved it, so we could talk about it, but it's moot, so we'll have to wait and see.
No, well, I had mentioned to Selectman Busnell prior that, other dispensaries around Clinton are doing food trucks and whatnot, so.
In other towns, wait,
In Berlin.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right.
Poor choice. In Berlin,
Okay.
Hudson area. So hopefully, maybe we can reach out and just encourage them to go look to see how these other towns are making it happen and come back. But I think anything we can do to support any of the businesses in town.
Yeah,
should.
There may be a good reason for the denial. I don't know. I wasn't there, but business is trying to promote itself. We should do what we can to try to help them. And I don't know if Phil was involved in that at all. I'm sure as economic development, he might have a role in that as well to advocate for the business. Yeah, I guess we'll just see how it goes.
Any other old and new business? On to committee reports. The Government Affairs Committee, we haven't told Michael yet, but we're going to try and meet next Wednesday to continue our discussion of Assistant Town Administrator job description. Any other committee reports?
The evaluation. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead,
On
John.
the tax title committee rate, we just acquired 8 pieces of property down in Water Street we've been after for years. It was over $500,000 in back taxes, so we got to move on that as soon as possible.
How does that work? If there's people, it's my understanding there are people living there. So are they renting or how's that work?
To the best of our knowledge, they're renting.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do. There are people living there, people living in the units. There are 13 units. The town has taken 8 of the 13. So we need to reach out to them. Town council's working on that, reaching out to them to say, if you're paying rent, if you're paying fees or whatever, they all now come to the town. We're also looking to try to see what insurance is on the building, because now the town has to insure it if it's the town's responsibility. They're trying to reach out to some attorneys to see if there's a condo association in place, or if there was just kind of loosely set up of how they did maintenance there. So it's a big problem. It's in a floodplain. It's I think mostly all the units are occupied. 5 are owned outright condos by private individuals, and then the other 8 the town has just taken. So even the units that the town took, they weren't formally condoized, so they were only being kind of used as apartments. So whether the town is going to move forward to make them condos to sell them individually, or we just put it on the auction block and let a developer buy it and let them condoize it and sell it from there. But it's a lot. It's a lot there, and a lot of responsibility the town took on. But at the same time, it's been many years, and it was probably $600,000 of tax liability that they haven't paid in a number of years. So like this, at one point, it was we have to do one thing or the other, and it took a long time to get through the court process because it's such a complicated issue. And the courts didn't even initially know how to handle it, but eventually they sorted it out, and we just found out on Friday that we had gotten or Thursday, whenever it was, late last week, that we got judgment on behalf of the town. So
It's something I'm going to follow up very
Yeah,
closely.
yeah, great.
You don't want to be stuck with it.
No, no, don't. But any other, sorry, Ed? Evaluation, you were saying?
The evaluation subcommittee is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, a week from this Thursday, next week. Yep.
Great. Any other committee reports? Hearing none, that's the end of our regular business. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 20th.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Good night.